I think my message is all around developing high-performing people. So I feel that in whatever industry we work in, it ultimately comes down to how are you going to show up for yourself? How are you going to show up for your team? And what does that look like from a sustainable performance perspective? So hopefully the messages from my world, my sporting world, working with sporting athletes, can be used by attendees just to kind of understand little bits and pieces that they can take away to deliver sustainable high performance for themselves. Working in the sporting world, we're trying to win competitions. We're trying to push the boundaries, definitely, but it's not. I know there was one question in around there around safety, but typically it's not life and death. I think in your world, it's, we're going to a whole different level, and I feel I was fortunate to sit next to someone who has received plasma therapy, and I know they're going to share their story a little bit later. And it's fascinating to realize, what happens from that process of people donating plasma, and where does it need to come in to save people's lives. And I feel that when you're in that space, we're trying to make cars go faster, or with my work in football, we're trying to improve performance of individuals and teams. That's great, that's exciting, but it's not life-changing, which I think is very much where the work in your world is of a whole other level. But again, very stressful. And I think that, there is, just understanding the challenges that you're facing. So, whilst I think sometimes we can forget what that end product is, we still need to be able to perform within the constraints that it seems like your organization is constantly facing. I feel like we always need to perform certain roles. And I think that often that we can essentially lose sight of who we are. I say, who are you without the badge? So in the sporting world, we always have a badge that sits on us. And I think, it's David Osgathorp at, and yes, I need to be performing that role in the organization. And I think a lot of us think of that when we meet someone for the first time. It's often the first question is, what do you do? And we are defined by our roles within that. But who are we? Who do we need to be to show up and perform at our best in those roles? I think sometimes that's forgotten. And that's what I like to do, strip away, what do you do? And understand a little bit more around who are you and how do you perform at your best, and what do you need and who do you need to be away from work. I've met people that are incredible high performers in their work, but incredibly low performers in every other aspect of their life. And I don't think that is sustainable high performance for me. And I feel that you can see that across sporting domains, but also in the corporate world, where you're highly functional in the workspace, but not able to perform. Your marriage is broken down, you don't speak to your kids, you don't have any friends, you don't have any interest, you're constantly exhausted because you're giving everything to the role. That's great for a certain period of time, but I don't think that leads to a high performance life. And I feel that when we can focus on those other bits and pieces, like I talked about, then you bring a more positive energy. You bring that energy to yourself, you bring that energy to your team. People want to be around that energy and the high performing people. I think if you are working for a leader that is all about work and exhausted by work and very angry and very stressed all the time, that isn't someone that's going to inspire. That isn't someone that I want to be like. That isn't someone that I really want to work with. So I feel that actually shining a lens and understanding that it should be a little bit more to you than just who you need to be at work. And sometimes that can be a bit uncomfortable for people. No, I think it's been fascinating just understanding your world a little bit more. I think just with the conversations and the research that I've kind of done, you don't realize everything that goes into it, and how challenging it is in your world to be able to constantly be able to manage all of the legislative changes that you've kind of got to manage. I know you have teams all around the world just within that sort of side of things, with the logistics and the communication with that. I think that it's incredibly challenging, incredibly inspiring. So I really appreciate being invited to be part of this and understanding more about your world.